No, I believe that we are unmuted and you all are muted, and that's the way we want it, I think, for just a moment, just because there's some background noise otherwise. So I've just started recording the session. I wanted to mention that. What I'd like to shift to next is to introductions. We'll then are going to do an overview of the program, just briefly touch on some of the outcomes and impact that I think we all can take some pride in accomplishing so far this year. Matt and I want to review the 2016 application process and timeline, give you a little sense of what some planned changes are for 2016. We want to then move to getting some feedback on 2015. How did things go this year? What do we need to do better? And then have a dialogue and answer questions, okay? So again, our hope is to, really accomplish most of this in a half hour, and maybe a little bit more if there's a lot of questions or dialogue. So I'm going to unmute everyone right now. You may need to mute or unmute yourself, but let's just do a quick round the horn and have everyone introduce themselves. I will start, and my name is Tom Longstreth. I'm the Executive Director of ReSOURCE. And Matt, why don't you go ahead?
My name is Matt. I'm the Administrative Office Manager at ReSOURCE.
Mark Schroeder, Howard Center Developmental Services.
I'm Jen Regis with Howard Center, the Children's Department School Services Program.
Chris Shaw to Central Vermont Council on Aging.
Sue Rossi, Capstone Community Action.
Okay. You know what, I think the introductions maybe are not coming through too clearly on this end, so I'm going to just keep running through. I'm going to keep running through this, and I think in the interest of all of us understanding and hearing, I'm going to again mute it. I'm not sure. It seemed like we're having a few technical problems, so I'll again unmute towards the end. But let's just try to get through the main program. So just an overview of the Essential Goods Program. The purpose of the program is to relieve poverty. We provide essential goods to low-income people and victims of disaster. I think most of the folks on this call are familiar with it because they've been partners with the program. There may be a few brand new people, and if so, Matt and I would love to give you a bit more history and background than I'm going to do right now. But just briefly, we really formalized this program in 1998, developed what we have as currently the sort of a system of vouchers, which really give the beneficiaries, the people we're trying to serve, an easy way to make a purchase and to do it in a very respectful way. Essentially, the voucher works as if it were cash or a credit card here at any of ReSOURCE's programs. You all know the program started out here in Burlington. We then grew and developed a building material reuse operation. We get fewer vouchers used. There's less need for building materials. I think that's mostly because most low-income people are renting. They're not owning. But there certainly is some use, and we certainly incorporate the building materials ourselves in some of the affordable housing and weatherization work we do ourselves. We grew to and expanded our services to Barrie in about five or 6 years ago, and then 3 years ago expanded to Morrisville. The Morrisville store is going to be expanding and moving to Hyde Park, 5 miles away, around about January 1st. We hope that's going to give us a greater ability to meet the needs up in Lamoille County and actually as far up north as Northeast Kingdom. So that's one change that's happening. So as you can see from this slide, that we have 4 current locations, 2 in Burlington across the street from one another, 1 in Barre, 1 currently in Morrisville, moving to Hyde Park. We currently have over 30 partner agencies who support this program, who are part of it, who distribute the vouchers to the people they are trying to serve. The program meets individual and family needs, and it also supports nonprofit agencies. About 2 years ago, we developed a program whereby we annually find out from nonprofits what their IT and computer needs are and solicit requests for improvements and upgrades. And our computer department has now done this twice, and it's sort of linked to our apprentice-style training where we're giving trainees who are trying to get into new jobs really solid skills, takes advantage of the fact that we're an e-waste collector and a Microsoft authorized refurbisher. So I just hope you all will keep that in mind for your own agency needs, but you may know of other nonprofits in the state who need help developing some of those. So that's the overview of the program. I want to just celebrate briefly some of the successes. You know, we really are doing a lot of good work together. In 2015, so far this year, there have been 2,024 voucher sale transactions. So essentially, things where we're giving stuff away. There's been that many transactions. There's been 1,031 vouchers issued, and that's what we know about. You may have issued even more than that we don't yet know about. There's been 882 individuals or families who've been supported, and that's an unduplicated count. So many individuals actually are getting help, getting vouchers from multiple agencies. You know, they'll get some from us, they'll get some from another partner agency. So they're piecing that help together. We're able to, you know, keep track of an unduplicated count. So there are 34 partner agencies who've been involved in 2015. I also think it's useful to sort of you know, think about the scale, and if you're looking at this on the computer, as I hope most of you are, you can see sort of the count of items that have been distributed over the first 11 months of this year. 81 appliances, 456 building material items. And you know, that's a real range. I just had to use very broad categories to make it fit on the screen, but we actually keep track of you know, about 800 different products. So if you ever want to see, you know, how many widgets or light bulbs or desks or couches or chairs that we've given away, we actually have this data, and it's pretty easy to pull up. So, but 172 computer systems, 24 different types of electronics systems, radios, TVs. You know, generally those things aren't considered essential goods, but there's exceptions for everything. And some people need those items, and some nonprofits need TVs for their organizational purposes. So furniture and housewares is the biggest category, and I'm sorry, you know, this is a big category with not much detail, but again, we could at some point, if I had a little more time, give you a more detailed report. But 8,939 different items have been given away in that category. We've done 255 deliveries, and we've given away 650 different small appliance items. So everything from a vacuum to a toaster oven to a lamp. And then there's a category of other, 272 items. So in total, almost 11,000 different items, which I think we should celebrate. That's helping a lot of different people improve their lives and just manage better. You know, they're able to cook in their own homes. They're able to sleep on a bed. They're able to sit down at a table. They've got utensils and pans and pots and pans. So So I'm going to shift to the partner agency application process, and Matt, please jump in if I get any of this wrong. But I think in interest of moving through this, maybe I'll just, and partly because Matt is new, as you may know, he took over from Mary, who left earlier this year to pursue her dream job as a librarian, and we really missed Mary, but she did a great job for us. So our due date is for 2016 partner agency applications, and essentially this is folks agencies, nonprofits who would like to distribute our vouchers, ReSOURCE vouchers, to their clients, the people they serve. The deadline to be part of the program is December 11th, which is a week from today, right? So our internal deadline to confirm our $150,000 budget, to review the partner agency requests and to determine awards is the 23rd of December. We will commit to sending out electronically notice of awards, welcome packages that will include terms and responsibilities, instructions, and sort of product price lists, or the things that you're going to need to know to be, for us all to work together essentially, before the end of the year, and hopefully sooner. I mean, we'd like to get that done, before the Christmas holiday, so that you can prepare and be ready for the new year. But and then the other two deadlines or dates is, in January would be the first billing for 5%. There's a cost share, and in July we would do a second invoicing for the second cost share. So again, I'm going to just keep running through this and then unmute everyone, and so if you've got questions on any of this, please write them down, and we'll have time to go over those together. The program changes and improvements. One, this is actually not a change, but we again are going to budget $150,000 for the 2016 program year. We expect that we're going to be slightly below that this year. We won't spend our full budget allocation, which is probably good because our income is unfortunately is running a bit short of the as well. We plan to increase the allocation that we give to our partner agencies. In the last several years, we've reserved 30, maybe it's even been 40% of the total that we've budgeted for distribution by ourselves, through our own systems. And we really feel like we would like to push more of that out to you, the partner agencies, because we're not equipped, we don't consider ourselves say social workers, caseworkers, and don't feel like you have a much better handle on where the need is and how and who can be helped. And also, almost every single year, we haven't been able to meet the demand for vouchers. We've had to cut back on people's requests. So assuming that we again get higher requests than we can fill, part of the way we'll fill more of that is by reserving less for ourselves. So one of the consequences of internal staff turnover this year, and we actually lost both our finance director, Mindy Keir, and Mary, who managed this program, was that we just didn't do some of the things we normally would do very well, and so I apologize for that. We will commit to trying to get more regular reporting of voucher use out to each agency in the coming year. And this is somewhat tied to that, but we also are planning a fairly significant improvement to our point of sale system, which we hope will actually make processing vouchers much simpler and speed up the data reporting process. And make it more accurate. We haven't figured that process out fully, so we've just recently made a decision that that's what we're going to do, and it'll probably take at least 6 months to fully implement it. But in the first part of the year, we are probably going to be trying to engage with some of you to figure out what is possible, because really what we'd like to do is put in essentially issue a scannable voucher that would allow the information, some key information, to get into our system much quicker and more easily with less work on our clerk's part. We get too many inaccurate entries currently, and so we think that by automating it, that will speed it up. But again, we'll be talking in the first part of the year once we start figuring out how we think that can work, and we'll work with you to make sure that that'll be possible. The other thing I wanted to just mention is that ReSOURCE ourselves are unfortunately going to be homeless in 3 years. We've found out that we're going to have to find a new home in 3 years. Our headquarters here at 266 Pine Street, we have one more 3-year lease, and then that will be it. So one of the big things we are working on right now is where could we locate? Where could we move? This location has worked well for us. It's been central. A lot of our low-income customers walk to us. We're walkable. We're on the bus route. So this is, again, something that we hope to work with our partners to make sure that we locate in a place that's going to be at least as convenient as this place. And one of the challenges, just to give you any advice and thoughts on this is welcome. But we occupy about 20,000 square feet here, and so we actually would like to figure out our building material site across the street. So we have another 7,000 square feet of indoor space across the street there. So this is going to be a major issue for us. And in fact, one of the things we hope to do is better separate geographically our two stores and make each of them household goods and building materials, which we think would enable us to have two locations,
Expand our reach.
Geographically separated, so that, for example, one might be in Winooski and one would be in Burlington, or one's on the south side and one's on the north side of Burlington. But that's still to be determined, but we're spending a lot of time trying to look at sites and explore those. So, Matt, did you have a...
Yeah, it's just going to allow us an opportunity to expand our reach, geographically, and help different pockets of the population, I think. So it is an exciting time, and if we do get a flagship store where we can house everything under one roof, I think is kind of the goal we're going to try and reach. So it's going to be an exciting new development for us moving forward.
So I'm going to shift to feedback and questions, and I'll state the questions, and then I'm going to unmute everyone. And judging from the previous experience, once I unmuted, there was a lot of background noise. So if any of you are having side conversations and doing other things, which I understand the need to do that, but maybe this will be a good time to stop doing that, and let's have a bit of dialogue as best we can through this imperfect electronic medium. But the questions would like to pose are, how did the program and system work overall in 2015? Are we meeting the need in the community? Is this need growing? What could we improve upon for 2016? Any further comments or suggestions? And also, what other questions or thoughts do you have on the program or the application process? So bear with me for a moment, and I'll turn on the mics. Okay, so I think you all should be able to voice your opinions now.
Well, this is Chris at the Central Vermont Council on Aging. One of the issues that we saw this year, we actually ran through our vouchers a lot more quickly than we have in the past, and we've been using the voucher system for, I believe, since 2001 or 2, so a long time. is it seems like appliances have gotten so much more expensive, and we happen to have a number of people who needed appliances this year. So I don't know if there's, if there could be a break for voucher prices for appliances, or if you, have any feedback about that.
Yeah, let me respond to that. That's a really good question. So our appliance program is one of the areas where we are we're going through some changes. We've actually moved our appliance department from from Williston. We had a 9,000 square foot facility in Williston, and that's where we based our job training and reuse efforts for major appliances. The program had really grown over the past 6 or so years, and we have, I think we had about 7 full-time staff. At different times, we had 10 trainees out there at once. The number of trainees has decreased, and the income we get from recycling metal has dropped dramatically. And so for the last several years, we've been losing money. That social enterprise loses money. And that's, I say losing money, that we essentially credit our appliance department with the full sale of an appliance, even if we're giving it away through a voucher. So we put the cost of that voucher in a different department. Our appliance guys get the full benefit of that on our financial system. So I don't think we could. I mean, the cost is sort of really represents the cost of doing the work. It's a market-based price that represents sort of the real cost of appliances. I think that the best thing we can do is increase the total voucher, the amount of vouchers that we have. The price, I think, needs to be sort of consistent. All of our prices, there's a continuous balancing act that we play because we help 2 types of low-income people. One group is those who use a voucher, who presumably are the most, have the least income, most challenges. The other group is people who also really need help and are shopping at ReSOURCE because we offer good values, but we can't raise their prices without, to cover other programming without hurting some of the people we're trying to help. So we try to keep prices at a point that is competitive, that is well below what you'd have to pay for a new item, and we also try to keep it as low as possible, but we also have to cover our costs. And when government grant income declines and it's tough to raise private funding, we're somewhat limited. But we have grown the essential goods program. I think it was only 4 years ago that we were closer to about 100,000 a year, and now we're at 150,000 a year. So there has been a pretty significant increase. Although we've also grown, more of it is going to Berry and Lamoille County. I mean, so the amount of growth in Chittenden County may not be quite as much. So I hope I answered that question. But thank you. That was a good. Other questions?
This is Sue with Capstone in Berry. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
When you said there could be additional money available to nonprofits, we generally, our amount was a little less last year for 2015. Should we put in for more, a request with this application, or should we wait?
No, I think definitely if you have need, you're fully using what you have and feel like you can distribute more, and there's people you need to help. You should put in for what you really, I think what you project the real need would be.
Okay. And with the 10%, right?
Yes. Well, the 10% of the award is what we charge as sort of a cost sharing, and part of that is the cost sharing. I think raises in total maybe 5,000 or 6,000 because we cap it, so it's capped.
Right.
The larger users, but part of that is just to allow us to raise a little bit of revenue to cover sort of the administrative costs of the program, but also, it keeps everyone, if everyone does a little bit, it sort of makes it a little bit easier to make sure the program's sustainable.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions?
Hi, this is Jen Regis from Howard's social work program, and I'm just curious about how frequently, I think, Matthew, it might be you who will be sending us the spreadsheet of amounts that have been used, and I'm wondering how frequently that will come out.
Right. So as Tom was saying earlier, I believe Mary had left, and we had done this previously, trying to get a monthly report out, and so I've been kind of picking up the slack where Mary left off previous, so there was almost a 2-month gap there, but we plan on getting a monthly report out to all of our agencies, on a consistent basis. And I guess part of that too is the reporting on your end as well, and keeping kind of an accurate check and number of vouchers you're distributing, the amounts, so that we can kind of collaborate those numbers and come up with an accurate assessment. I know that there's been some question about that, and I've been trying to provide folks with the best figures that I've been left with, comparing to what your numbers were, to try and find where we were towards the end of the year. Moving forward, I want to make it a lot of, I guess, a simpler process, more concise, and so we have more accurate reporting.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. I was doing my own reporting, and then it's just so helpful to get yours because it's more accurate. And so, as you know, because I know you and I emailed individually, we're now kind of scrambling, and we have the need for sure. And the school social workers, as of today, actually, the remaining balance, it was like a few $100s of a balance, has been given out to client families, which is great. But what ended up happening was, and I think that this was the first time it happened, where families didn't use the vouchers to their full complement. And so then it just was really helpful to see your numbers, because then, I mean, I hope that it's all going to be accurate.
Yeah, maybe just so that everyone understands the issue. The challenge is that we issue awards to each agency. So, for example, some agency might have $10,000 to distribute. It should be, and we expect each agency to keep track of the vouchers you're distributing and make sure you don't exceed your budget authority. However, where the challenge comes in is that if you send someone to us to buy a table and you give them a $100 voucher to get a table, but the table they find only costs $50, that means, and you say, no, they can't use the voucher for any other purpose, then there's going to be $50 unspent on that voucher, which you should be, essentially can go back into your budget. And that's one of the improvements that we'd like to figure out in our system, so that we can sort of send back and redistribute, or make sure you're aware of additional balances that you might not otherwise know you had. But I guess I would remind everyone, we had a couple of agencies exceed their budget authority this year, and so we really want to only do that with pre-authorization, because otherwise it's going to create a problem for us. So
sure. Yeah, that makes great sense, and I think that one improvement that we've come up with in our program is just to suggest that all the social workers go with the families, so that way they can be right there and see, you know, if there's that table issue that you mentioned, they can be there with them and then can report back to me, and I can have it on my tracking system too.
Great.
Another way to take care of that is on the expiration date is give your consumer time to spend the voucher, but don't, you know, make a January voucher good until the end of the year. Make them 90 days or 60 days, and then what's unspent from that report, you can cobble together and make additional vouchers later in the year for clients.
Definitely, and that's, so I was doing like between 30 and 60-day expiration dates, and then I think, you know, there were two things with Mary's departure and then me taking on this new position and just being overwhelmed in it. I think that I just lost track for a little while, but I think that we'll be fine for the end of the year, and we'll do better next year.
Well, and we sympathize with the staff turnover and being overwhelmed, absolutely. So you're not alone there. But one of the solutions that we will look into is the possibility of taking our information and putting it up on a Google Docs, or sort of requiring everyone to use a Google Docs to keep track of your voucher distributions, which would mean that we could actually on our end update the expenditure information so that we would all have it in sort of or I mean, another alternative is to actually give you some level of rights to our database, and that also might be a solution. But Google Docs might be sort of the safer, simpler solution, and I think a lot of people are already familiar with that. So we're going to work on this, but we hope to have some improvement by middle of the year or thereabouts. So.
Great. Thank you.
Welcome.
Other questions? I think that's the last slide, but I'll recheck. Why don't we just call the meeting to a close then? And Matt and I are available, happy to have conversations offline, but we'll end it there and look forward to seeing folks' requests by next week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
How many attended? 13?
12, 13 possible.
Oh, well, no, the attendees are
dropping.
dropping.
Yeah,
I think it was a total. I think I saw about